Gator Dave, we're back, sir. Final preview of the 2024 season. How you feeling?
Yes. I'm feeling pretty good, Mike. I'm feeling pretty good. Very excited. We're getting much closer to the real games, man. But it's been interesting leading up to where we are right now. So kind of cool. So
Yeah.
very excited about where things are headed. So obviously we're now Bets Utopia, right? Your number one location for all things sports betting. I'm Gator Dave, and that's Miami Mike. We're ready to roll here tonight. Tonight we are going to look at top 25, 12 teams in the playoffs, who wins the conferences, who's going to win the Heisman, all that kind of cool stuff before we get to the real deal down the road here in the next week or two. Um, Remember to like, remember to subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you know when we're jumping on here. So if you're having trouble finding us, just Google Bets Utopia Sports Betting and we'll pop up. It'll be right there. So excited about this week. Next week, so everybody knows, it's going to be week 0. There's only 7 real games out there. So Mike and I will probably pick a few of those real games. And a few maybe less, and then we'll take some time to talk about some of the other things coming up, some of the games coming up, and obviously we got to talk about that Miami Florida game that's going to come about in week 1. So that's where we'll be next week. But let's kind of roll into what we got going on tonight, and starting
All
with
right.
that top 25, right, Mike?
Yes, sir. You're first. We got Gator Dave's final top 25. So this is the top 25 going into the playoffs. Correct, Dave?
That's right. Going into the
All right.
playoffs. That's right. That's right.
All
So
right.
we start getting up there at the top. We'll kind of delve into what's really going to happen out there, especially when you go from 12 to 1. All right. So I'm going to start down at 25, and I've got the Arizona Wildcats at 9-3 coming in at 25. I do want to talk about a couple of things that I kind of go through here. One, what's a must-win game for the teams, and who's going to be their go-to person or player that's really going to be important. Maybe not necessarily the MVP, but very important person. Maybe that VIP, right? So when I look at Arizona, and as I did these, there's several teams that I think are going to be pivotal in some of these better teams' success. And the game that I think is going to be important for Arizona is West Virginia at home. So I think that's going to be a big one for them that can go either way, right? And that's kind of why I'm thinking it's going to be important. And of course, their VIP most important person I think is Noah Fafita, the quarterback. This kid stuck around when the new change came in, and I just think it's going to be real important that he has a successful year in order for Arizona to be successful. So that's where I got 25 Arizona Wildcats at 9-3. 24, I have the new addition to the ACC. I have the SMU Mustangs coming in at 9-3. Um, they might do better than this. As I start looking at schedules, ACC was the first group that we looked at, Mike, 4 weeks ago, and now that I've had a little bit more time to absorb things and look at schedules, it's very interesting in that ACC, and I think this is one of the teams that could, have major impact. So I've got them at 9-3. I think they and as I look at their schedule, an important game for them to win is going to be TCU at home. That's one of the old division rivals, so to speak, in the other conference, and I think it's going to be real important that they do win that game. Um, VIPs on the SMU Mustangs, their backfield. Jalen Knighton, ring a bell, Mike. LJ Johnson, Kamir Wheaton. They combined for 1,500 yards last year, averaging 5 yards a pop. So I think it's going to be very imperative that they have a good year with
Yep.
that very cool quarterback. So that's where I am at number 24, the SMU Mustangs. At 23, I have my alma mater, the University of Memphis. I think they're going to come in at 10-2. I see their tough game at Tulane. Granted, Tulane lost their coach, but they're still Tulane, and they had a decent year last year. So I think that's going to be one of their tougher games that they have to deal with, an important one. They're going to win to do well in the AAC and win that division. Um, their VIP, so to speak, I've got is a kid named Mario Anderson. He is a transfer from South Carolina, kind of fumbled himself last year at South Carolina. We all know that. I mean, you and I both know that South Carolina didn't do that well. I'm not that impressed with what they did, but this kid has a lot of potential. 5'9", 208, tough back. I think he's going to have a really good year for University of Memphis in that AAC up there. So I think that's going to be their very important player. At 22,
Okay.
Mike, I've got the Appalachian State. I got them coming in at 10-2. I think their important game at home is going to be James Madison at their place. In other words, important game. This game is being played at home, which is good for them because James Madison can always be a little feisty. And that game being played at home is going to be important. But it's going to be important for them in order to be successful and win that conference. Their
Right.
player, VIP, I've got a kid named Michael Marota. He is actually a center for okay, good stuff there, buddy. So he's actually a center for Appalachian State. Dude's 3'10", 6'5" out of Valdosta State, played really well. Rolling in there at Appalachian State, he's going to be the key to the success of that line and the success of the offense at Appalachian State. Next up, I've got number 21, the Tennessee Volunteers. I know everybody thinks they're going to be much higher than that, but we all know Tennessee's always overrated. They are going to have a 9-3 season. I think it's going to be a fairly decent season there. Their very important game that they need to win is at Oklahoma. They've got to win that game in order for me to see them to get to that 9-3. I think it's very
Right.
possible, but I don't know if it can happen at all. Their VIP is going to be Nico, the quarterback. He is going to have to make it happen. I think the key to the success of Tennessee and their maturation as a team is going to be this kid. And if he can tear it up and be the number one quarterback like everybody thinks he can, then Tennessee's going
Right.
to be a player in the long run, especially in the SEC.
I agree.
I'm going to go to 20. I'm going to go to another SEC team, Mike. I'm going to the LSU Tigers. I've got them coming in at 9-3 as well. Their pivotal game, important game, is going to be, and this is another one of those teams, kind of like West Virginia, which you'll see in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, they're going to need to win in the swamp. Granted, we weren't all that as Florida last year, but I think we're going to be better, and I think we're going to give people a run for the money in the swamp. And I think this is going to be an important game for LSU in order to progress and get past their, Jaden Daniels QB from last year. Obviously, their
Right.
important player is going to be Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. Losing Daniels is a big deal. Nussmeier did well in their bowl game, 31-45, 395 yards, did quite well. They've got some decent transfers at wide receiver because they lost a couple of really good guys to the NFL as they usually do. But I think Nussmeier is going to be key to the success of the LSU Tigers. As we move up, I've got at number 19, I've got the Kansas Jayhawks, Mike. I've got them coming in at 10-2. And again, that burn the side is that team again, Mike. West Virginia. I think at West Virginia is going to be
Mm-hmm.
tough for them. Obviously, their key to success can be Jalen Daniels at quarterback, and what can he do? Can he stay healthy? That's going to be one of the keys to success for that team because he's had back issues, and we all know back issues. That ain't nothing to play around with when you're 50 or 60 years old, much less when you're a college football player at quarterback. So real important that they keep him healthy and he has the success because he can make it happen there in Jayhawk land. Next up, I've got number 18. I've got their neighbors. I've got the Kansas State Wildcats coming in at 18. 10-2 is where I have them, and I think their tough game is going to be Kansas at home. It always is. And again, if Daniels is playing well and he's tearing things up, that's gonna be a game I would not want to miss because quarterback Avery Johnson's on the other side of the ball, man. That kid's going to be very exciting. I'll be very disappointed if he's not. I think that's
Agreed.
going to be one team to really watch, and especially that quarterback in Avery Johnson and coming in for the Kansas State Wildcats. So that's who I've got at number 18. Mike, number 17, I have the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I've got them coming in at 10-2 in the Big Ten. I think their tough game is going to be Iowa State. That game is at home, which is going to be helpful for Iowa, but I think people are going to underestimate Iowa State a little bit. I mean, they came on at the end last year, and I think they're going to be a tough out for a lot of teams. I think they're going to be another one of those thorn in the side teams for the teams up there in the Big Ten, and I think it definitely will. I think it's a must win for Iowa State. Their running back, LaShawn Williams, is going to be key to their success up there. You know, he had 170 rushes for 821 yards last year. Good 2023 season. He's going to need to do the same this year in order for them to be successful. And obviously, we know the quarterback's going to need to ensure he doesn't get hurt this year like he did last year. All right. Moving up the chain, we're going to 16, and I'm going to the North Carolina State Wolfpack, and I've got them at 10-2. I think their toughest game is going to be at Georgia Tech. Another one of those pain in the ass teams, I think, out there is Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, but I think that's going to be one of the must-win games for North Carolina State. You know, they don't have a really tough schedule this year, so I think they have success, but that's one of those games that they've absolutely got to win. They've got a wide receiver, Kevin Concepcion. I know you know him, Mike, being an ACC, great year last year, ACC Rookie of the Year. He's a freaking stud. They usually do end up with at least one good wide receiver, and that kid's awesome. He's going to have a big year there for North Carolina State. As we continue to move up, I'm going to look at number 15. I have last year's title champions, the Michigan Wolverines. I have them at 10-2. I think their must-win game in order to achieve success is going to be Oregon at home. I think it's going to be a tough win, or for them, or going to be tough for them to win. But I think in order for them to even end up at that 10-2, they're going to have to beat Oregon at home because they've still got to play Ohio State and Penn State as well. So their key to success in terms of player, Alex Orji. Their quarterback, this guy's got to come out of nowhere. I mean, last year I didn't even know who this guy was for the world champions. But, he's going to be the guy this year, supposedly. So he's going to be the one that everybody's going to count on to come in and make it happen. And we're going to have to see it. I honestly, I think Michigan could, it could be an ugly fall. 15 might be a little conservative in terms of where they are. Yeah, because I think there's going to be some sanctions come out against Michigan here in the coming weeks, even before the season starts. So, which is going to kind of put a damper on things, I think, and the coaches and so on and so forth. So, I hate to say that, but I think it's not going to be.
I don't know. They won a championship last year when they didn't have Harbaugh for 6 games. So
yeah,
they kind of seem like the team that's not going to phase.
It could be. But my gut tells me it ain't going to be the same year and even close this year. So, all right, let's move up. Number 14, I've got Florida State Seminoles at 10-2. The other side of the family's team. I think their must-win game, if they're going to be successful and only lose 2 games, is going to be at Miami. I could say it's going to be at the Swamp, but that game's so far away from now, I couldn't have a clue about that game. But I can tell you that they're going to have to do it at Miami, or it's Miami's going to blow past them this year because of the schedules. VIP, very important player for this team, is a kid named Patrick Payton, edge rusher. He's going to be taking the place of kind of Jared Verse, number 2, and they're expecting a lot out of him. And he's supposed to be the edge rusher, the man, the guy that's going to make things happen. And obviously, they're going to need that in a retooled ACC this year, and the fact that they've lost a number of good players. So I think that's going to be their very important player. Next up, Mike, I got your Miami Hurricanes at lucky number 13. I've got them coming in at 10-2. Their must-win game, again, must-win game is going to be in the Swamp on the first game of the year. I think it's going to be imperative for that team to win that game in order to say, yeah, we're for real this year. We're starting things off on the right foot, and we can make it happen. I think if they lose that game, to a team that's supposed to be beleaguered and about to fire their coach, it's just not going to go well. So
about to fire their coach? That's crazy. Well, 10-year contract. He's not going nowhere.
That's what you say, Mike. So, all right. So, a very important player on that team, Cam Ward. He's got to make it happen. He had a great year last year, 37, 35, 25 TDs. He started out, he was going to go to the NFL, and he changed his mind. He said, I think I can make more money going down to Miami, so that's what I'm going to do. So he came into Miami, and is going to be their savior at quarterback. Probably the best quarterback they've had in quite some time. They've also got a running back coming in as well that's going to make a big difference for that team. So, and obviously you put that with a relatively easy schedule, they should see that 10-2 and come in at number 13 at least. And Mike, that is my 13 through 25, sir. You're up.
I love it. So actually, I'm gonna let you keep going. I'm gonna let you go. So you're gonna go 5 through 12 now.
All right, here we go. All right.
I'm just gonna let you stay on the roll. Stay on the roll.
Yeah, I'm rolling, Mike. I'm rolling. All right. So now, since we're at 12, and this is kind of the way I laid it out. I don't know if Mike really wanted to do it this way, but that's how I had it in my head when we did it. So this next 12 are the 12 that's going to make it to the playoffs, folks. Okay? Yeah. I think it's going to make the playoffs. So at number 12, I've got that team from the group of 5. I got Boise State coming in at 10-2. Their tough games will be at UNLV. They don't have that tough a schedule, but I think that is going to be one of their toughest games they're going to have to deal with on the road, thus being a little bit tough for them, and one they need to win. Their very important player, Ashton Genty, is their running back. Last year, All-American honors. He did really well. I mean, the kid he forced 106 missed tackles. Okay?
That's a lot.
That's unbelievable. 96 first downs. He was at an FBS school, so it's like, but he killed it. So this guy should come in and make a big difference for Boise State. We know they got a nice quarterback coming in as well. But that's who I've got coming in at 12, being that group of 5 team. All right, number 11, the team that has no conference. I've got a Notre Dame Fighting Irish coming in at 11-1. Their most important game they're going to deal with, to me, is going to be FSU, and it's going to be at home. But they've got to win that game. If they don't win that game, they're going to be 11-2, and then they're going to be teetering on that outside of that. To me, when I look at records right now, they're going to teeter falling on the outside of that 12. So they've got to beat FSU at home. Their key to victory in terms of players, a kid named Mitchell Evans, tight end. He tore his ACL in 2023. He's a stud, though. 29 catches, 422 yards in just a few games. He's definitely a difference maker. Obviously, Riley Leonard obviously comes in and makes a big impact. But this kid's he's got to make it happen, because we know Notre Dame depends on those tight ends. Mm-hmm. Next at number 10, I have the Oklahoma State Cowboys, Mike. I've got them at 11-1. I think their must-win game is going to be at K-State. If they can't win that, then that could be 10-2, and then they might not be sitting in this playoff here. So in order for them to be successful, they got to beat Kansas State at home, and that's going to be a tough game. Everyone knows who their key player is, and if there's one player to me that has a chance of that's not a quarterback that could win the Heisman, I think is this kid Ollie Gordon. He's all world, man.
Interesting.
He's a stud. He's a stud. He's a great running back, and I don't know what the line is on this kid, but we all know it's kind of tough for a non-quarterback to make it. And I don't know if Oklahoma State and where they're going to stand, but they could be undefeated most of the year. And if they're undefeated
Mm-hmm.
most of the year and this guy's just ripping it up, he might be right there in the Heisman contention. So that might be a nice long
Yeah.
shot for those of you who bet out there. So that's where I am at number 10, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Number 9, Mike, I've got the Penn State Nittany Lions coming in. I think they're going to be 10-2 in the Big Ten. Their tough game, again, it's going to be at West Virginia. I think this one's early in the year, and of course, their most important player is going to be Drew Aller, and we talked about him a little bit as we've gone along over the last few weeks. That kid's got to step up. He's got to take things to the next level. He's done okay, but to me, he hasn't been as good as his publicity. But he's gonna have to be now in order for this team to get to 10-2. Now, they do have a relatively easy schedule, so that's gonna help Penn State out quite a bit. But again, they're gonna have to go in there and beat West Virginia, and Aller's gonna have to show up. Number 8, Mike, I've got Alabama Crimson Tide. I know everybody's going, damn, number 8. Yep, it's this year. It's going to be number 8. But remember, all you got to be is in that top 12 to make it happen. So I've got them coming in at 10-2. Their tough game that they've got to win is going to be at LSU. We all know how hard it is to go in there and win at LSU. I'm sure it's going to be a night game. And we'll just have to see what goes on there. And is LSU going to be who they are? And of course, the VIP, very important player for this team is going to be Jalen Milroe. And can he take that next step, and continue to play well and mature as a player and be that next, superstar at Alabama, which I think they can, but you just don't know. So, but that's where I've got. I'm laying my cards right now in terms of Milroe. Number 7, Mike. I've got Ole Miss Rebels. I've got them coming at 10-2, and I think their game. Yep. At the Swamp, buddy. They're gonna have to play at the Swamp. I think it's gonna be it's a must-win game, because if they don't win that game, they're 9-3, Mike. Because that's in my mind. So I think it's going to be imperative that they go into the Swamp and they beat my Gators. So we'll see how that goes. Very important player for this team, Jackson Dart. Obviously, a lot of people thinking very highly of him being the top quarterback in the SEC. We'll see. Again, he's got to continue to mature. He's not going to have the backfield's going to be good, but it's not going to be as good as it was last year. So he's going to have to take things up a notch up in order to be successful at Ole Miss. But I think he can. I mean, Lane Kiffin's brought in a lot of really good transfers. So I think it's really going to be a test to really understand how good, how important are transfers and can they really make a difference. If Ole Miss goes 10-2
can they make that immediate impact?
Yeah, if Ole Miss goes 10-2 or better, then there's the results of the best, transfer class, right? If they don't, then maybe it's not such a big deal. So I think there's a lot's going to teeter on that. Number 6.
Hey, well, look at Florida State. If they can do what Florida State's done, with their high-ranking portals, or is it going to be like Colorado with their transfer stuff, where they bring in, a brand new team, and they don't really, but we'll get to them. We'll see if they start gelling this year.
Exactly. All right, number 6, Mike. I've got Ohio State Buckeyes. I've got them coming in at 11-1. Okay, their very important game, must-win game, is Michigan at home. They've got to break the curse, man. They've lost to them the last several years, and they got to make it happen. And of course, their very important player is going to be Will Howard. He's got to come in there and say, and he's got to make things happen. I mean, Kyle McCord did a decent job last year, but he couldn't beat Michigan, so they freaking sent him packing. Now Howard's going to have to come in there. He's going to have a lot of pressure on himself. This schedule is a lot harder than it was last year. You've got Oregon rolling in here and Washington rolling in here, and you've got these teams from the West coming in here, so it's not going to be as big a cakewalk as it was once before. And Ohio State has one of the tougher schedules of those top 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten.
Agreed.
Next up, I've got number 5. I have the Texas Longhorns. I've got them coming in at 11-1. The game they're going to have to win, Red River Shootout, against Oklahoma. If they don't win that game, it's going to be trouble. I'll be honest. They're not going to meet expectation if they don't win that game. So that's going to be the big one, I think, for Texas in order to be successful this year. Their big player coming in is Isaiah Bond, in my opinion, from Alabama as a receiver. They've lost several receivers from last year to the NFL, and this kid's going to have to make it happen and be successful at Texas in order for all the things to come into play that they talked about. So that's where I am, Mike, on through number 5. So we ready to go 4?
Give me your 4, sir. Give me your 4. Let's do it. Knock it out.
All right, here we go. These are the 4 that are going to get the top 4 seeds, meaning they are going to win their conference.
All right.
Number 4, which is a change from where I was going early in the year. I am going the Clemson Tigers, Mike, coming in at number 4. And they're going to beat your Miami Hurricanes in the ACC play. Yep.
Of course they are.
They're going to come in at 10-2. Their game that they've got to win is NC State at home. NC State's got a pretty easy schedule, and you saw I've got that long shot winner of NC State winning the ACC. I mean, the odds are way up there, and I look at that schedule and it's like, shit, dude, it's a pretty damn easy schedule. So, but Clemson's got to beat them. They got to beat them no matter what in order to win the division, in order to get past or be there with Miami and Florida State. Bill Maffa, the running back at Clemson, I know you like him. He's going to be the man. Shipley gone, Maffa in. He's got to make it happen in the backfield there in order for things to roll like they want it to roll. Obviously, their quarterback's going to have to, pull his head out of his ass and be better than expectation at this point. But we'll see where they go. Mike, at number 3, I've got the Utah Utes winning the Big 12. They're gonna beat Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. They're coming in 11-1 in the regular season, and the game they've got to win before they get to the conference title is they need to beat Oklahoma State at home. That's their big tough game. So there's a lot going on with this team. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, obviously, with their top 3 players injured last year. Cam Risings, is he back? And is he going to be close to where he was 2 years ago? They've got their tight end coming back. They've got their running back coming back. All these guys back this year in order to make things happen with Utah. And everybody's picking Utah. That's the thing that scares me off a little bit about going with this, and that's why I've kind of thrown a couple of ideas your way in terms of who might actually win the Big 12. But that's where I've got it right now, Mike. They're coming in at number 3, beating Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. Number 2, Mike, I've got the Oregon Ducks. Okay, I've got them beating Ohio State in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. The game that they're going to have to win, must win, is going to be at Michigan. And again, I don't know what Michigan's going to be this year. I'm a little concerned. Last year I was wall to wall all the way. You knew it. I picked them from the very beginning, and they made it all the way to the end. But this year, I'm just not really sure where they're going to be. So, but I think this is going to be a must-win game for the Oregon Ducks. Their key player must win, must make it happen is Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. Man, if he can take a couple of steps up and be better than Bo Nix, this team's going to be badass. And I
That's
think
gonna
they've
be hard to
got,
do.
yeah, it is. I mean, Big Bo, he had a great year last year, but surprised us, right? I mean, we never thought he would do what he did with Dan Lanning, but I could see it happening with Gabriel more than I could with Bo Nix. Um,
Yeah.
Much to my chagrin, Mike, I've got the number one team being the Georgia Bulldogs. I've got them beating
Mm.
Texas in the SEC championship. I got them at 11-1 in the regular season, and their must-win game is at Ole Miss. Okay, because remember they got to go to Alabama as well. So those are the two games that are very pivotal to them. But I think they've got to win at Ole Miss. There's something up there when it comes to Alabama. So that's why this one's a must-win. These guys got a wide receiver named Dylan Bell that I think is going to have to step it up. We all know the quarterback needs to make it happen, but this kid's got a chance to be something great. Dylan Bell is the number one receiver, and to be very successful in this offense, they got multiple guys in the backfield. We know the defense, but I think this guy's got to show out in order for Georgia to be successful. So, Mike, that's my top 25, sir.
All right. I like it. We're on the same page with a lot of these, just like we were with most of these conference previews. So, all right, coming in at 25, Gator Dave, I got the Kansas Jayhawks. My key player for them is Jalen Daniels. He's got to stay healthy. He's had a lot of issues over the last couple of years staying healthy. His backup, Bean, who's no longer with them, he would come in and kind of save the show, save the season. So Jalen Daniels for me, he's their key guy. He's got to stay healthy. The key game for me is going to be November 23rd. They are playing at home, but remember Kansas' stadium is getting renovations, so they're playing this game at Arrowhead, where the Chiefs play, and they're playing Colorado. I think that game could be a trap for Kansas, especially depending on how Colorado's season's going. I think that's going to be a tough game for them. West Virginia, I have coming in at 24. The QB, Garrett Green, I think he's going to have another great year for them. Again, same thing. He's had some injury issues. He's got to stay healthy. October 19th is their homecoming game against Kansas State. That is my key game for them that I think they need to win in order to be successful this year. They got to have it. Coming in at 23, I'm on NC State. QB Grayson McCall is my key guy. He's got to show out. November 30th is their last game of the season, and they go to North Carolina. So that is my key game for them to win. They got to finish strong. They got to end the season on a positive note. They can't slip up against the Tar Heels, but that's where I got them at 23. Washington, I actually don't have a key game for them right now. But their quarterback, Will Rogers, is the guy that's got to perform for them. I think Washington has a chance to surprise some people. I think the over-under is... Let me find my sheet. I got so many notes, man. Over-under on Washington for regular season total wins this year is 6.5. So nobody's giving them a shot. That's a huge drop-off from last year. Granted, they, new coaching staff, pretty much new team entirely. I think they're bringing back like one starter from their team last year. But I think people are writing this team off a little too early. So I got Washington coming in at 22. I think they're going to shock some folks. 21, I got Texas Tech. Their key game for me, Washington's key game I do have. It's November 9th at Penn State. It's supposed to be a whiteout game. That's supposed to be Penn State's whiteout game. So I don't think Washington's going to win that game. I don't. It's not like a must win. That's just it's a whiteout game at Penn State. Like how can you know that's the key game. It's got to be. So yeah, again coming in at 21, we got Texas Tech. Key game, November 30th, last game of the year. They're at home against West Virginia. If they're not careful, West Virginia can steal that one from them. Their key player for me is going to be their running back, Taj Brooks. He had 1,500 rushing yards last year. So he's the guy for that offense. He makes it go. So I think he's going to have a big year in order for them to be successful. Number 20 is going to be USC, Southern Cal. Their key game for me is going to be September 21st. It's at Michigan. That's going to be a tough game. You know, welcome to the Big Ten moment, traveling across the country. For me, their key player is going to be Miller Moss. First start of his career was in the bowl game last year because obviously Caleb Williams was their starter, number 1 overall pick to the Chicago Bears. So this is Miller Moss's first season under the helm as QB1. It's going to be, I think, on his shoulders. It's a Lincoln Riley offense. You know they like to go. So he's the key guy for me. Tennessee is going to come in next. I got them. The key game for me is going to be October 19th. They play at home against Alabama. You and I should say, grammar police. We both enjoy a good goalpost going into a river, and we both think that's going to happen in that game. So that's the key game for me. That's the must-win for Tennessee. Their QB, Nico, I'm not even going to botch his last name because I'm not even going to pretend to know how it's pronounced. He is their guy. Like you mentioned, he's going to go. He's going to make that team go. If he struggles, Tennessee is going to have a rough year. If he, is in the running for some of these end-of-year awards, Tennessee could shock some folks. So keep an eye on the Vols. Next coming in, I got SMU at 18. Their key game for me is going to be September 6th. They're playing at home on a Friday against TCU. Those Friday games are tricky, especially in the Big 12. So, but it's TCU. That's a rivalry game. You know, these Texas schools, these Texas teams, they always come to play against each other. It's an in-state rivalry. I think that's a must-win for SMU for the rest of the season, with it being September 6th. You know, it's very early at the beginning of the year. If they win that game, they can kind of ride the momentum. Preston Stone, the QB, he's my guy for SMU. He's got to make it go. He's got the ability to run the ball. He's got the ability to chuck it deep. SMU's offense is going to be lethal. I think it comes down to their defense ultimately, but Preston Stone's got to stay healthy, and he's got to be able to move the ball efficiently. Coming in at 17, we got the Florida State Seminoles. Key game for me is going to be October 5th. They play Clemson at home. That's going to be a massive, massive game in terms of ACC rankings and ACC conference championship picture. Key player for me, DJ Ugalele, I think. He's the guy. They chose him to be the guy for Florida State. They didn't really have a quarterback before he showed up. He's taken over for Jordan Travis. Those are extremely big shoes to fill for this guy who's, been kind of all around now. He was at Clemson. He was at Oregon State. Pac-12 blew up, so he kind of had to ship out and find another situation. Landed in Tallahassee. But this is kind of a make or break year for him in terms of his future past this year, past Florida State, past college football. So I think this is a big, big year for DJ, and to me, he's their impact guy. If he's successful, Florida State's going to be fine. If he's not, could be a rough year in Tallahassee. Coming in at 16, I got Iowa. Key game for me is going to be November 29th. It is a home game. It is a Friday night game against Nebraska. So it's the last game of the year at home, Friday night against Nebraska. The QB, Cade McNamara, is ultimately the guy for me. When he was at Michigan, you could see flashes of what he was capable of. And then he went to Iowa and got into that Iowa offense led by Kirk Ferentzen's son. And it was pretty rough. But he is gone, so they have a new offense. So ultimately, I think it's on Cade and that offense to really make something happen for Iowa. We know what the defense is going to bring. The defense alone is going to win Iowa, 6 games and have them bowl eligible. It's just a matter of what this offense can contribute as well. Coming in at 15, I got Missouri. Key game, Missouri just has a tough schedule. I would have them higher, but their schedule is brutal. Key game for me, though, is going to be October 5th at Texas A&M. Key player is going to be wide receiver Luther Burden, future first-round draft pick, future potential highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Dude is an absolute stud. I think he's the key player for Missouri because ultimately he gives them that dynamic ability on the outside to kind of make that offense go. So I think they have to have him, and that he has to be a problem for defenses. Coming in at 14, I got the Ole Miss Rebels. Key game for me, same as you. November 23rd, they make a trip down to Gainesville. They got to win that game. That is going to be a tough. Florida, we've talked about it. They have the toughest schedule in the nation this year, but they're not going to lay down. I mean, if they have 3 wins at that point in the season, they're still going to come to play because they're not going to want to get embarrassed. It's still SEC football. You got to come to play or you're going to get embarrassed. Not in their home house, not in the swamp. However, that's a game that I think Ole Miss is going to win if they're going to have the season that they want to have, and that's making the playoff. In order to do that, they're going to have to go into the swamp and make some things happen and stay consistent. So that's the key game for me for there. Quarterback Jackson Dart feels like he's been in college football for 15 years now. That offense is going to go how he goes. His connection, his relationship with Lane Kiffin, we see it. They talk about it, how smooth it is. It's time, though. They got to get over that hump. It's time. Next, I got at 13, and I will then throw up my graphic. It is going to be the Kansas State Wildcats. So Kansas State, I have them coming in at 10-2 and sitting just outside the playoff. Their key game for me is going to be September 28th at home versus Oklahoma State. I think that's massive. Massive for both teams, matter of fact, to kind of dictate how their season's going to ride out and kind of what position they're going to put themselves in the Big 12 talks early on in that first month of the season. QB Avery Johnson, just like you said, he's their guy. Dual threat guy, very similar to, a Tim Tebow type guy. He has Cam Newton. He has all the abilities. He can throw it. He can run it. He's tough. He's big. He's got to stay healthy. That's the ultimate thing for Kansas State. He's got to stay healthy. If he goes down, Kansas State's going to have problems. But I have Kansas State coming in at 13. That is my 13 through 25, Gator Dave. Whew, man. All right. It's coming in at 12. The group of 5. Group of 4, I guess it is now. Whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. I got Gator Dave's alumni Memphis Tigers sneaking in there to the playoffs. I'm not saying they'll be successful, but they're going to get in there. Key game for them is October 11th. They play at South Florida. That is a game that they cannot afford to slip up in. They should be the favorite. They should win that game. They can't slip up in the humidity. So Seth Hannigan, their quarterback, he's the guy. He could throw it all day long. He could throw it 60 times a game. Puts up stupid numbers. He's got to continue to do that, and he has to stay on the field. No injuries. Memphis could have a really big year. Coming in at 11, I got Penn State. Key game for me with Penn State is going to be October 12th. They're playing at Southern Cal. That is a massive, massive game. Again, I talked about it earlier with them making the other team making the trip to Michigan. It's very similar, same thing. Penn State, you're going from Pennsylvania to California. That's a big distance. It's in the middle of the season. It's October 12th, so you've been in Big Ten conference play for a month now, or maybe even just starting off. You got to come out strong. If Penn State wants to be in this playoff picture, that's a game they got to have. Running back Nicholas Singleton is my guy for them. He's going to make that offense go. If he's not able to be successful and it's put on the back and the shoulders of Drew Aller alone, Penn State's going to struggle. Also to note, new defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz, who led that awesome defense last year. He's down at Duke. So that's something to note as well. It'll be interesting. And on the flip side, with Southern Cal, a new defensive coordinator too. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Coming in at 10, I got Alabama Crimson Tide coming in at 10. I think Nick Saban or not, the Alabama bias is still alive and well. These are still Nick Saban's players. They will get into this playoff. I have them getting in. I think their record's 10-2. Key game for me for Alabama, it's October 26th. It's a home game against the Missouri Tigers. They have to win that game. Missouri is going to be a problem this year. I think that game right there kind of decides whether or not Alabama gets into the playoff or Missouri takes that spot. So that's a massive game for Alabama. QB Jalen Milroe, you said it. He's the guy. He's going to either make this offense go or not. You saw it last year when they had their sort of quarterback woes and they were bouncing around to different quarterbacks trying different things. They were losing to South Florida at one point, Dave. I mean, it was atrocious. It looked like Alabama should have never gotten as far as they did last year, making it to the championship. It's nuts. But I think Milroe is the guy. He's got to perform. If he struggles like he did sort of at the beginning of the year last year, Alabama's going to have problems. Clemson, I have coming in next. Their key game is going to be September 21st at home against the NC State Wolfpack. They can't slip up. NC State has been a team that has been in Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers' thorn in their side for years. There's just something about them, whether they're playing in Raleigh at NC State or in Clemson in South Carolina. It's always a great game. It always goes down to the wire. With Grayson McCall leading the NC State Wolfpack, it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to be an absolutely great game. But in order to make the playoff, Clemson is going to have to win that game. Again, September 21st at home against NC State. And you mentioned him, running back Phil Maffa is the guy. You could say Cade Klubnik. I get it. But Cade Klubnik, for as high as of ranking as he was, that highly touted 5-star recruit, he just hasn't lived up to it. But who has lived up is Phil Maffa. The running back is a dog. Before that, they had Will Shipley. Will Shipley's gone. This is strictly Phil Maffa's backfield now. He is going to light it up on the ground. So he's my key guy for them. He's got to stay healthy because he is a monster. Notre Dame, I have them coming in at number 8. Same sort of thing with Alabama. There is going to be that Notre Dame bias, unfortunately. However, I have their record at 11-1, so they kind of deserve it. Secondly, something to note with Notre Dame, though, their schedule is a little not too great. They're not going to play too many top 25 teams, so when it comes to an 11-1 Notre Dame or, say, a 10-2 Kansas State, or a 10-2 Ole Miss or Missouri, it's going to be really interesting to see how that playoff committee plays that because of rank of schedule and everything else. So that'll be interesting to note. QB Riley Leonard transfers in from Duke. He's the guy. He got hurt for Duke last year. He almost beat Notre Dame when he was playing for Duke last year before he got hurt in that game. So he's the guy for Notre Dame. He's the key game. Key matchup, must win for Notre Dame is going to be November 9th. They play Florida State at home. They have to have it. If they want to be in the playoffs and get that 11-1 record to sneak in there, because I don't think 10-2 gets Notre Dame in. Whew. All right, number 7. We got the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Key game is November 23rd. They play at home against Texas Tech. They can't slip up. Texas Tech is going to give them a great game. Texas Tech is going to shock some folks, I think, this year. Ollie Gordon, you mentioned him, running back for Oklahoma State. He's their key guy. He has the ability to rush for 2,000 yards. He's an absolute stud. He's going to make that. It's either the offense goes behind Ollie or the offense struggles. So Ollie Gordon is my key guy. Number 6 is going to be the Oregon Ducks. Their key game for me is going to be November 2nd at Michigan. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel. We're going to talk about him a little bit more here in a bit, but he is their key guy. He transfers in after some injuries, after bouncing around to multiple places now. This is his last year. He's all in with the Ducks. He's, got that Hawaiian tradition hood. He's following in Mariota's footsteps. It's one of those guys that he looked up to. I think he gets Oregon to the playoff, and we'll talk about in a minute, just how far they go. But I think Oregon is able to get in there, get a decent seed right in the middle of the pack, and make things happen. I don't know if I mentioned it, but November 2nd at Michigan is the key game for Oregon for me. Coming in at number 5 and just missing the top 4 slots, those top 4 automatic buys like we talked about, is going to be Texas. Key game for Texas is going to be October 19th. They play at home against the Georgia Bulldogs. Massive game for Texas, massive game for Georgia. Can't wait to watch that one. It's going to be must-see TV. QB Quinn Ewers is the guy. I think you could say they're running back because of C.J. Baxter going down with an injury. You could say their running back and their backfield is kind of the key to that offense. But ultimately, Quinn Ewers, he's had the hype for years. They showed promise last year. I mean, Texas made it extremely far, further than a lot of people did. But something about Texas is they've done that in the past. They've shown flashes. Sam Ehlinger, Colt McCoy, or not, I guess not since the Colt McCoy days, has Texas really seen that type of success. They've just shown flashes or that type of consistent success. So I think Texas has finally turned the corner. I think Steve Sarkisian is a perfect fit for them. So I think Texas is for real. Texas is back. You could say it. They're coming in at number 5. So that is my 5 through 12. Number 4 in it's going to be Utah. Like you said, everybody and their mom, has Utah winning, and that's a little frightening. It comes down to my impact guy, your impact guy, Cam Rising. If he can stay healthy, Utah can do everything that's in front of them. If he doesn't stay healthy, you're going to see a similar situation in season as to last year when he had Heisman aspirations. Utah had national championship aspirations, and it just didn't work out, right? So I think that they win the Big 12 championship. I think they beat Oklahoma State in that championship game. Coming in at number 3, you guessed it. It's the Miami Hurricanes, Dave. We're coming in. Biggest game for me for them is going to be August 31st against the Florida Gators in Gainesville. Massive game. You win that game. Everything's ahead of you. You carry with that momentum. That momentum carries you all the way to the Florida State home game. All right. You lose that game. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about if we lose it. All right. We don't want to go there. We're putting good things in the world. Good things. I have them beating Clemson in the ACC championship game to get that 3rd seed. QB Cam Ward transfers in from Washington State. He's my key guy. He's become an absolute leader to this team. It's going to be a decision behind, can he make them go or not? The good news is we have a little QB depth now, so it's not too concerning, but still, he's the leader of that team. He's got to make it come together. So Cam Ward's my guy. Number 2 is going to be the Georgia Bulldogs. I have them beating the Texas Longhorns in the SEC championship. Their key game for me is going to be September 28th at Alabama. They have to win it. It's a must-win game. QB Carson Beck is their impact guy for me. 70% completion percentage on his passes last year. Can he keep that up? That's absurd. 70% completion percentage on an entire season. I don't think people understand how ridiculous that is. That's going to be hard to duplicate. So, but I think unfortunately Georgia's got a little bit of a real schedule for the first time in a while this year. So he's going to have to come to play. So Carson Beck is my guy. And then last but not least, number 1 overall, I have the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think their biggest game, as you mentioned it, November 30th at home, last game of the year against Michigan. They have to win that game. Ryan Day has to win that game. Otherwise, he may be done, as crazy as that sounds, at Ohio State. He's got to win that game. Big Ten championship, I have Ohio State beating Oregon to get it done. QB Will Howard is the key guy for me. Transfers in. He's got to be consistent. Quinshaw Judkins, you could throw him in there too. But they got to have that offense rolling. It's got to be consistent. They got to stay healthy. Will Howard's my guy. So that, Dave, is my 25. That is my playoff predictions.
Hey, by the way,
now let's move on.
Nico Iamalaava.
Okay.
Iamalaava.
Iamba Alava.
That is it there, my friend.
I gotta turn
Yep.
on the AC up here because I feel like I'm sitting in lava.
I
So
noticed you
I'm
sweating
gonna
it.
let you.
So,
Oh my God, dude,
Iamala.
I'm dying over here.
I know. I saw you. I saw you dripping over there, dropping the dripping off.
Oh
So,
my God, dude, I'm cooking. I'm
so.
like a fat kid in heat right now. It's nuts.
Well, I mean, do you have a long
Woo!
sleeve shirt, Mike? And it's summertime and it's
Woo!
90 degrees outside.
Well,
Come
shit,
on.
I'm not outside. I mean, come on, bro. What are we
It's
doing? Who's in charge of this thermostat? That's what I want to know. All right.
summertime.
Anyway,
Summer.
let's move on. Let's move on. So let's talk those final four
Yep.
that we
Yep.
just
Yep.
mentioned.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and throw your final four up on the screen. So you had Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon. This is your breakdown for the brackets, right? So this is not their final top 25. This is based off of bracket seeding and then how the games play out and you get to that final four left, correct?
I had Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State. Yes.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
All
So
right.
those are the four teams and how that I think they're going to roll in. And then of course,
So do you want to go
yeah.
through how that kind of gets there, like with the matchups, like 12 versus who, or you want to just?
Oh Lordy, Mike. I don't
All right,
see
you're good.
how
You're good.
that can go. So all I can say is I think that's how the last four are going to end up, and the seeds
All
end
right.
up versus their schedules, and thus Georgia playing Ohio State, Georgia beating Ohio State, Oregon playing Texas, Oregon beating Texas to give me Georgia, Oregon in the finals. And as much as hurts, it hurts here. It hurts here, Mike. It hurts here. It hurts. It hurts here. I have Georgia winning it all. So that's kind of
Mm.
where I am. So
I like it. I like it. So I actually have the same Final Four, Dave. I have Ohio State, Texas,
I would have
Oregon,
never
and
thought that
Georgia.
after hearing your 12.
Ohio
I would have
State,
never.
Texas, Oregon, and Georgia. The only difference is, so you have Georgia beating Ohio State and Texas beating Oregon to match up Georgia Oregon, right?
Yeah,
So
because of
I
how I
have
had my seeds in the,
how the seedings are going to go, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So for my seedings, I have Ohio State playing Texas and Oregon playing Georgia in the first round. So a little backwards, right? I have
Yeah, yeah,
Ohio
yeah.
State beating Texas, and I have Georgia beating Oregon for the championship to be Ohio State versus Georgia. And then for my champion, I got Ohio State. I got Ohio State getting the rematch, getting that win
But
against the Bulldogs. Ryan Day gets the redemption from that field goal and saves his job, and everybody can back off him for a couple months. And I think that's how
Mike,
it's
who
gonna
did
go.
you pick last year? Do you know? Mike, you didn't pick
Ah,
Michigan.
shit.
Gator Day picked Michigan. Who'd you pick? Might you have picked?
Um,
Who might you have picked?
let me see. Let me see. I'll
Did
look
you
it
pick
up. I'll look it up right now.
Alabama? Or did you pick
I'll try to find it right now.
might you have picked Ohio State last year? I don't know. I don't know. So while you're looking for
I
that, I'm just
picked.
curious.
So that was my final four. My final four last year was Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, and LSU. And your final four was Michigan, Tennessee, Texas, and Notre Dame. That's what our final four was last year.
Who did you have win? I had Michigan winning it
I
all.
don't know. I don't know. I kind of think I had Michigan also, to be honest with you. I'd have to go back and look. I'd have to go back.
It's all good. So where we going next here, Miguel? So you got Ohio State Buckeyes. I got the Georgia Bulldogs. So
Yep.
who's going to be
So
those?
we've talked top 25, we've talked playoffs, we've talked championship games. So now, last but not least, we are going to transition to the Heisman Trophy winner, and then that is our show for this evening. So Gator
It
Dave,
is. It is. So
give
here are
give
my
me your top three
three
Heisman
starting.
finalists.
All right. So here's my three, and I'm gonna
All right.
go in order which I think they roll. I'm gonna say number three is gonna be Carson Beck. I'm gonna say number two is gonna be Dylan Gabriel, and I'm gonna say number one is gonna be Quentin Ewers as winning the Heisman Trophy. If I
Okay.
wanted to place a long shot bet, as we talked earlier, I might throw a couple of bucks on Ollie Gordon just for the heck of it. Because my gut tells me, looking at their schedule, that
Mm.
he could run up some damn yards, and we ain't seen that in a while. So, man, what's 25 bucks to win you hundreds or maybe even more? I don't even know what that number is. So
Wow.
maybe we'll look at that next week. So, but that's what I got. Quentin
All right.
yours. That's where I got you taking it. What about you?
So yeah, I got something similar. So you said you have Quinn Ewers. So I have Quinn Ewers, I have Dylan Gabriel, and I have Cam Ward. Because again, the Hurricanes are going to do something that they haven't done in a long time. They're going to, or ever, they're going to win the ACC championship and make the college football playoff as an automatic bid. So that deserves a Heisman Trophy invite. So Cameron Ward is going to be there. But I have Dylan Gabriel getting it done and bringing another Heisman Trophy back to the Pacific Northwest in the Oregon Ducks. I think he's just going to have an incredible year. The offensive line's built for it. You got Evan Stewart coming in to help that wide receiver core out, which was already filled with studs. Tight end is nice with Ferguson. Oregon's going to be a problem. Defense is elite. So I have Dylan Gabriel doing it. Their schedule is also legit. They got to make some travel games. So those are some big games where he's going to have an opportunity to showcase his talents. National TV, CBS, with the Big Ten this year. So a lot of people are going to be able to see those games. So I like Dylan Gabriel to get it
I,
done,
I
Dave.
like I like it a lot, Mike, because you see, I have Georgia and Oregon playing in the last game, so I have high expectations of Oregon rolling right through that Big Ten up there. So, and obviously Dylan
I love it.
Gabriel has a good year. It could happen, man. It could happen for sure. So
I
good
love it. I
stuff.
love it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, Mike, another good show there, my friend. I think we've got given the peeps out there something to think about. Getting them fired up and moving on toward possible, betting if you do that kind of thing. And we're putting some
Yep.
money out there, but hopefully you can be successful and take some of the thoughts that Mike and I have given you and put it to good
Gamble
use. So
responsibly.
absolutely, and 1-800, call for help if you need it. So you know,
It's in the description down below.
that's right.
It's in the
That's right.
description down below.
It's the CYA down below. So for sure. So Mike, again next week we'll hit a couple of those. I think we can hit a couple of those week zero games and talk about some other things as we go through. So we'll have a decent show. Might not be an hour
Yep.
long like this one, but I think we got some ideas of some things we can throw at the folks. And then the week after that, man, it's back to the 12 games and making it happen and winning some money, right? So
We love it. We love it. Real quick, if you watched this long, we really appreciate you. So I'm gonna throw a couple of real quick things that I think that you should look out for before this season starts. We're gonna be talking regular season win totals. So I'm gonna give you five real quick. Utah over 9.5 wins. I think that's a good one. Clemson over 9 wins. I think that's another good one. The Washington Huskies over 6.5 wins. I think that's good. Florida State over 9.5 wins. I think that's another solid one. And Missouri over 9.5 wins. I think that's also has some potential. So those are a quick five regular season win totals that I'm going to be on this year. Gator Dave, you wanna throw anything else out to the people? Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps us out moving forward, and we love to hear from you. Drop a comment below if you want us to talk about something specific. If we're not talking about something, if you love something that we do talk about, let us know. We wanna make sure we keep that going. So please, feel free to interact and speak your truth. Gator Dave, what you got?
Speak your mind, give us your comments, and man, I look forward to next week, and we'll give the folks out there some more great information, and should be good. And man, just can't believe we got 2 more weeks before the season starts, and it's that game, it's that game, Mike. It's that game.
It's right around the corner.
So
right around the corner.
It is. Thanks, folks. We appreciate you guys watching tonight, and have a good evening, and go Gators.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.